Okay, I think we're live. Hello, good morning or good afternoon or good evening to you, and welcome to our Spider Strategies monthly educational webinar. For the month of September 2018, this current month, we're going to be covering using Connect with relational databases and SOAP data sources to update scorecards in QuickScore. My name is Tom Keating. I'm the Training and Customer Experience Consultant at Spider Strategies. I always like to invite people to contact me personally and directly if you'd like to do so at tom.keating@spiderstrategies.com. Very quickly, just a couple of webinar logistics I'd like to share with you here this morning. First of all, this webinar is being recorded for future use and reference. Eventually, it will be posted on our Spider Strategies Learn page. All you attendees are presently muted. I always apologize for that, really, because I would love to hear from you and make this more of an interactive experience rather than sort of a monologue and demonstration by me. But we've learned over the months and years that if we leave people unmuted, we often get, we'll call it noise pollution in the background of automobiles or sirens or dogs or something just kind of interrupting the presentation. So you are muted. With that said, at any point in time during this webinar or afterwards, again, please feel free to communicate with me directly at tom.keating@spiderstrategies.com or to our Spider Strategies education website, or email, I should say, at learn@spiderstrategies.com. With regard to today, our agenda, we'll start with a hopefully brief review of the QuickScore architecture and some Connect basics. Then we'll move on to discussing creating new data source connections in Connect. Again, today we'll be covering a connection to a relational database and a SOAP web services data source. Both of those, of course, need to physically exist and be accessible independent of Connect before we can ever use Connect to connect to them and make them a data source. And then lastly, we'll be using those new data source connections to update existing QuickScore scorecards, again, via Connect. So to agenda item number one, a brief review of the QuickScore architecture and Connect basics. Hopefully you're ready for this. And I'm going to provide you with a visual, we'll call it overview of the QuickScore architecture. I know there's a lot on the screen right here. Hopefully those of you that are existing customers and partners are already aware of the overall architecture of QuickScore. And in this case, I would really just like to ask you to focus your attention on, of course, the heart of it all, which is our QuickScore application, which is, of course, a Java web-based application that is accessed via, modern day web browsers. You can use Safari or Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, and so on. And then, of course, we have our Connect utility, which is available for data imports and data integration. And again, of course, today's topic and focus is around Connect. Last month, in our August training webinar, we covered Connect basics. I kind of like to refer to it as a Connect 101 class or course. And in that webinar, we covered employing Excel or CSV files as external data sources that we use to either create scorecards within QuickScore or to update scorecards in QuickScore. For any of you who may be joining us today but did not attend that previous webinar, I just want to let you know that it's available to you at our Spider Strategies QuickScore website, which is balancescorecards.com on the Learn page. And if you navigate via the drop-down towards the upper right corner into the recorded webinars area of that Learn page, you'll find the webinar from August, which is, again, I'll call it the Connect 101, which is, building scorecards and updating measures. And again, in that course, we covered exclusively using Excel or CSV files as the data source for either, again, creating or updating scorecards. With that said, today, of course, we're focusing on, again, employing Connect. But today we're going to be using a MySQL relational database as well as another data source, which will be a SOAP web services data source. Before we forge on, I just want to make sure that we don't lose focus that you can use other relational data sources such as Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, other relational JDBC data sources are available to you. So don't limit your focus on just MySQL or SOAP web services in terms of what you can use Connect to pull data from and get into your QuickScore scorecards. In case we have anyone, again, today joining us today who is brand new to Connect, again, in the spirit of just reviewing what Connect is, I just thought I would share again with you very quickly the Connect homepage. Again, Connect is accessed by using your QuickScore URL, and then at the end of it, just a simple /Connect. You have to log in and authenticate yourself, but once you're in, you're brought to this homepage. And it's beautifully, wonderfully simple, where there's an imports area. I'm presently showing you a pristine, brand new, effectively empty Connect homepage. But we have an imports area where, of course, you can create new imports and store them and have them ready to go to reuse over time. And then you also have a data sources area. The data sources area, again, by default, and again, in its pristine state, will give you immediate and always available access to Excel files. So, and again, we covered that in last month's webinar. Again, in the spirit of review or maybe introduction to any newbies, when you get into the process of creating an import, you basically step left to right through, again, a really nicely simple interface where you start by providing, basic information about the data source that you're connecting to. You help the import process understand a little bit about that source data and label it appropriately and point it in the right direction. Once that's set up, then of course you need to clarify the destination, the intended destination of the import process in one of your scorecards, your organization's perspectives, objectives, and measures. And then, of course, lastly, just verifying that everything is mapped appropriately, everything is going where it's intended to go, and you're fulfilling the desired import process. And then lastly, the opportunity to schedule an import process. Again, for those of you that attended last month, we didn't really get too much into the scheduling because when you're using an Excel file as the import data source, there's not a whole lot of reason to be scheduling an import of a static Excel file. But today, as we talk about other relational or SOAP data sources, the scheduling may become more pertinent. So we'll just make sure that you guys are clear on how to employ the scheduling step of the overall setup process. Okay, so that, I believe, takes care of our brief review of the QuickScore architecture and some Connect basics. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is creating new data source connections in Connect. I just wanted to preview for you what you will see when you get into the new data source setup process. This is important because there is some, we'll call it heavy lifting that may need to be done outside of Connect and outside of Spider Strategies QuickScore to just have a data source, something like a MySQL data source, ready to go. When you are connecting to it via Connect, you just need to provide really basic information like a name or a description or a name. You need to provide a host or IP address, a port number, a username, a password, which you'll have to provide twice, and then, of course, a database name. So with that said, what you'll see me employ today and is something that's available to you, all of you customers, partners, and beloved Spider customers, is a data source that's a MySQL data source, which we have available online to you. And here is that information. And I share this with you because you're going to see me employ, again, literally this information throughout my demonstration in a few minutes. But I want you to know that this is also available to you to work with and play with within your demonstration or sample environment of MOBILEWORLD, which is provided to all of our customers and partners within QuickScore. Additionally, with regard to the SOAP data services and the information that will be required to establish a new data source against the SOAP data services source, again, it's providing a description. Again, the description is really whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, providing a URL and then a web services description language URL as well. Again, today, what I will be employing is, again, publicly accessible to all customers and partners, again, to use if you want to play around with it and use it within your mobile world environment. And this URL and WSDL URL are free and available to you for your use in the future if you'd like to work with it and play with it. And again, that's the information that I will be employing today. Okay, before we move on, the last agenda item, I just want to share that one with you, just to remind you where we're going, is using the new data source connections to update existing QuickScore scorecards via Connect. And I'm sharing that with you now. I know we haven't even shown you yet physically or live how to create a new data source, but once I've got a data source created, I'm going to turn around and employ it immediately to update a scorecard within QuickScore, again, via Connect. Okay, so enough with the PowerPoint presentation. Let's actually jump into QuickScore and into Connect and get the process started. I'm starting in QuickScore because I just want to kind of set the table for where we're going with this demonstration that I'll now be getting into. I'm going to navigate into the scorecards section of QuickScore, and again, just share with you briefly this MOBILEWORLD Inc. organization that again is provided to all customers and partners as a sample area, or you could call it a playground area for you to orient yourself to QuickScore. It is set up in a structure where we have a tier 1, corporate level scorecard set up in, we'll call it the classic balanced scorecard, alignment of a financial perspective, supported by some objectives and supported, of course, with underlying measures or metrics. In our case, in MOBILEWORLD, we also have some departmental organizations as well. One of them is marketing. And I'm going to open up the marketing organization and ask you just to focus quickly on the marketing scorecard. And we'll open up the 2 objectives of improved brand awareness and increased lead generation. I'd ask you to notice that under improved brand awareness, we have some measures of a Google search position, article mentions, Twitter mentions, and Facebook likes. In this case, this marketing scorecard is fully populated across several years with data, and of course, it's wonderfully lit up with colors and scores and is very insightful and helpful. For today's training purposes, what I've done is made a copy, 2 copies actually, of that marketing scorecard. The first is called September 27, Empty Marketing for MySQL. So what you'll see here is that marketing scorecard in the exact same structure, but devoid of any actual data. It's got no data in it, thus there are no scores, nothing showing up on the graph, nothing showing up on the speedometer because, again, it's empty. So the goal today is going to be to create a data source that we can connect to and use to populate this marketing scorecard, as well as another, again, copy of that marketing scorecard that will populate using a SOAP data source. So again, just 2 completely empty marketing scorecards that we will be populating after creating a data source to a relational database and to a SOAP data source. So hopefully the table is now set. You understand where we're going as I proceed into our Connect utility. So here I am, of course, at the Connect homepage that you just saw in my presentation. And our goal today is to create a couple new data sources and employ them. I'll start by clicking on the Create New Data Source button. Select the data source type, in this case of MySQL. Again, please note that we've got DB2, Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, SOAP Web Services, and FTP Server directory available to you. We'll select the MySQL and click Next. Here again, I need to provide a description. Again, this can be literally anything you want to call it. So I'll just call this Thursday demo is what I'll call it. In terms of a host or IP address, I am just basically providing the exact information that I showed you earlier for our publicly accessible and available MySQL data source. And again, I've done this in the past, so it's nicely available, you know, via our cookies. Although in this case, with regard to the password, I am going to need to do a quick copy and paste to get the password provided. So bear with me, please, just a moment as I do a nice little copy and then paste of the password. And again, I'll retype, if you will, repaste the password, and then of course provide the database name. So I've provided all the required information for this MySQL data source, and I'll click OK. It is now visible to me under the data sources area, and it's called Thursday Demo. It's online, it's indicated as green, and it's ready to go. So with that available, let's move to the imports area and create a new import leveraging that new Thursday Demo MySQL database resource. I'll start on the far left, of course, in the basic information area. And again, we'll just call this, again, I can call this anything I want, so I'll just call this Thursday import. The data source in this case will be that Thursday Demo newly created data source. And in terms of the import type, please be aware that you have really two choices. It's either updating metric values or update initiative status. It may be difficult to see via the webcast, but the create scorecard selection is unavailable. It's grayed out. So in this case, we're going to be updating metric values, and I'll click OK. Moving on to the second step of the import process definition or setup, it's to the source data. And here what I need to provide is a SQL query. Again, I'm going to spare you guys watching me try to type things out because I'm a terrible typist, and I'm going to employ the select star from social sentiment. One thing that I would like to just point out is, of course, you know, this SQL select statement is beautifully, wonderfully simple for our purposes today, but also please be aware that when you're connecting to real world relational databases, again, you may have needed to put some time and effort into constructing the appropriate, maybe more complex SQL, you know, statement that you need to get the data that you really want. In this case, though, we'll use the simple select star from social sentiment, and I'll run the query. I get a result set over on the right, and here's where, you know, when we were looking at the marketing scorecard, I asked you to note that there was some Facebook, some Google, some Twitter, and some article mentions. So we now have data that will empower us to populate that scorecard with information. What we need to do is a little bit of labeling of the result set so that this import process understands how it should treat or what it should do with the results. So we'll drag the metric ID/name down over the item type column into the column header. We'll drag the date label down on top of the date column, and we'll drag the value label down on top of the value column. In certain cases, you may need to address things like date format or, you know, what you want to do with negative values and whatnot along the top. But in our case, all we really need to do is just that simple basic 3-column labeling, and we can then click OK. So step 2 of the process, indicated again in blue, successfully set up. We'll move on to the third step, which is identifying the destination metrics. You know, where should this import go in our scorecard or in our world within QuickScore? So I'll open up the MOBILEWORLD Inc. organization. I'll find the September 27 empty marketing for MySQL organization. On the right, we see that marketing scorecard that we saw earlier within QuickScore. Under it, of course, the 2 objectives that we reviewed. And in our case, we're bringing in data purely for the improved brand awareness. We don't have any information or data for our increased lead generation. So for this import process, I'm just going to click on Improve Brand Awareness. You'll see that the 4 measures underneath that objective are now presented down at the bottom. So it now understands what the destination of this import is. Again, in the upper right, I'll click OK and see that that step of the process is now blue and complete. We'll move on to the mapping step of the setup process. And again, thanks to the names that we have set up, and really, if I can say, the intelligence of this Connect utility, it's able to do a great job of automatically mapping the incoming columns or I'm sorry, measures to the QuickScore scorecard items that they should populate. If by chance you have a situation where something did not automatically map for you, you'll see unused elements on the left, and all you need to do is simply drag and drop them over to the appropriate location on the right to get them mapped. So the mapping step of this, again, relatively simple, training purposes, demonstration is good. We'll click OK. And then the last potential step of the process, again, that's certainly not required, but is available to you, is to schedule this process. So imagine with me that, at our organization at MOBILEWORLD, we get all of the updated measure information into our MySQL database at the last day of any particular month. So in terms of getting that data out of the MySQL database and into our QuickScore application, we might want to run this, let's say, monthly on the, second day of a given month at, let's do it in the middle of the night so it's not creating any unnecessary server traffic during the middle of the day. We'll do it at 2 a.m. And let's imagine that our organization is, based in, where should we say, America, or here we go, Phoenix, Arizona. So we'll select Phoenix and we'll click OK. So we have successfully set up all 5 steps of this connect import process. We're good to go. We can click Save in the upper right and see that import process now exists. It's called Thursday Import. Its status is unknown because we haven't tried running it. It's never actually been employed yet to actually update a scorecard. But on the right, we have the opportunity, of course, to run it right now. Right? I'm not expecting you guys to wait around till the second day of the next month. So I'll go ahead and click Run Now to run that import process. And I see that under the status column, we get a green result of success. So yay, that worked. So what we'll do real quickly is jump back into QuickScore and get a little satisfaction of that effort. So I'm going to navigate into the September 27 empty marketing for MySQL organization. We'll go ahead and open that up. And immediately, if you just look to the right, you can already see that there is some information now available, some data, some actual values in this scorecard. So I'm just going to navigate back. The information that we brought in was just, 6 months worth of data from July through December of 2017. But you'll note that the overall marketing scorecard is now scored with a score of 6. For the month of, in the upper right, I'm looking at November of 2017, and I can go to the improved brand awareness objective. You see that it, in turn, has a score, of course, of 6. And I can go all the way down to the measure level and see for each of these distinct measures what kind of performance we have for them over the 6 months worth of actual values that we imported from the MySQL database. So great success there. Let's move on to doing really the same sort of process, but with a SOAP data source, SOAP data, web-based data source. Okay, back in Connect, I'll click on the Create New Data Source button again to begin the process. Under the Data Source Type dropdown, we'll of course select the SOAP Web Service option and click Next. Again, provided a description, can be anything you want, so we'll call this Thursday SOAP. We'll just call it Thursday SOAP. That's good enough. In terms of a URL, of course, we need to provide it with the URL. Again, this information I showed you earlier, publicly accessible to you. You can do this yourself as well as a WSDL URL. Once those 3 pieces of information are provided, we'll click OK. And you now see in the data sources area within Connect that we now have a Thursday SOAP data source. Let's move ahead to use that new data source to, again, create another import process. Again, towards the upper left, I'll click on the Create New Import button. And again, step through the 5 steps of creating an import process. First of all, of course, basic information. Call this Thursday SOAP, SOAP import. The data source in this case will be that newly created Thursday soap data source. And with regard to the import type, and again, I'm not sure how well this is going to come across via a webcast, but the only active selection or choice for you here in terms of an import type when using a SOAP web services data source is to update metric values. The other two are grayed out and inactive. Well, in the upper right corner, I'll click OK and move on to step 2 of providing the source data. This is where it's, of course, a little different than what we just saw when we were employing the MySQL relational data source. And again, the whole SOAP, web services, SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol, in case anyone doesn't know that. And it basically is using XML format to relay, information and data back and forth from a web resource. What we have to do is provide under the SOAP body area, we need to provide it with an appropriate XML-based, if you will, command. So I'm going to go out here and, again, do a little copying and pasting for you. And again, these instructions are certainly available to you. All you need to do is ask me for them if you want them. So I will click on the copy on the social sentiment request and just simply paste it into the SOAP body area. After that, I'll go down and click on the SOAP response. We'll call it a tab. It's a horizontal tab, but if I click on SOAP response, I see a fairly lengthy here, SOAP response, which is great, and it gives me the opportunity to pull in lots of information. We'd like to filter this element for a particular data set that we're looking for the Facebook and Twitter and all the article mentions that we want to pull in to our scorecard. So I'll click on the filter element for data set. And here, we need to provide it with a data element XPath. And this, folks, this is where I am not an XML expert by any means, but I know that you can provide this social sense, / social sentiment item, and then take a look at the filtered data set. So we have filtered it down to just a certain portion of that overall the SOAP response that we had created earlier. From there, what we need to do is, again, help the connect import process understand what it should do with this, what's up here from this, this XML. So if I go to the ID area, we'll say that what we want to point our connect import source to is the / item type in terms of ID. We don't need to give it a name, so we can skip over that. Moving over to the value, we want to point it to the value element from the XML. And moving to date, we want to provide a date. And again, this is just maybe just a reminder for you that already know Connect, or maybe it's an introduction for those of you that might be brand new. But what Connect really needs to do its job is it needs a unique name or ID, it needs a date, and it, of course, needs values that will be imported into a scorecard. So we have fulfilled the 3 basic requirements for a Connect import process. Then I'll move to the very bottom and click on Data Set. And you see that we have successfully returned a data set with metric ID and names of Facebook, Google search, Twitter, and article mentions, as well as some values, unique values for different time periods for all of those. One little, I won't even call it a glitch, but a nuance of this is if you look at the date here, you'll see that every single row is presenting today, September 27, 2018. And that's not what we want. It's really not necessarily, it's certainly not really accurate. If I jump back to the filtered data element real quickly and look at that date component, you see here the format of year-month-date. So as a last step here in this basic setup, we need to help our Connect process understand that the date format it's going to be provided is year-month-day. So if I just simply make that one fundamental change in the date format dropdown, we now see that it's successfully identifying that we have different Facebook results for different months between July and December of 2017. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click OK in the upper right corner and move on to the destination metrics step of our import process. Again, as we did before, I'll open up the MOBILEWORLD Inc. organization. Within that larger parent organization, we'll find the September 27 empty marketing for SOAP source, organization. Again, on the right, we have that empty marketing scorecard, and of course, the same two objectives. And again, we'll focus just on the improved brand awareness objectives because that's the area that we have data for the underlying 4 measures. And I'll click OK. We'll move to the mapping step of the process. Again, thanks to I'll call it the intelligence of our Connect utility. It's able to appropriately and accurately identify what's coming in yellow and map it appropriately to the scorecard destination over in white. No work needs to be done here. Again, if something wasn't fulfilled appropriately, it's again a drag and drop process from left to right. At this point, I'll click OK. And once again, let's just take an effort to just schedule this under the idea that, again, we might want to do this. I'll just do this exact same thing as I did before, which is to set this up monthly. Actually, in this case, I'll make it on the first day at midnight. And again, say that we still live in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'll click OK. Okay, so this new Thursday SOAP import process is ready to go. I'll click Save. And of course, it is now presented under the Imports area called Thursday SOAP Import. Again, it has not yet run, so we don't presently have any kind of a status presented. It's unknown. But of course, we'll go ahead and run this right here, right now, to import that information into our other scorecard. And having successfully processed that import, we'll jump back into Spider Strategies QuickScore, and I'll navigate to the September 27 empty marketing for SOAP source organization. Within it, again, see that we have a marketing scorecard. Under it, of course, the objective of improving brand awareness. And again, I'm sure you're noticing on the right that our line graph or chart is populated with information between July and December of 2017. And we can navigate throughout the months and look at either actual measures or a rolled up objective score, or of course, a further rolled up marketing scorecard score. So we have successfully created a couple data sources and used them to import information into our QuickScore scorecards. I'm just going to jump back into my presentation here and remind you of what we covered today. Again, a quick review of our QuickScore architecture and Connect basics. Again, we created a couple new data source connections, and we use those new data source connections to update existing scorecards. I would like to invite you to please join me and us again in October for our next webinar. What we'll be covering in October is using templates and value roll-ups in QuickScore. To wrap things up, I'd like to thank you very much for attending today. Please feel free to contact me personally anytime. Again, I'm Tom Keating. I'm your training and customer experience consultant, and I'm available at tom.keating@spiderstrategies.com or via our education email at learn@spiderstrategies.com. Thank you again for your time and attention. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.